This right here is a very plain wall in my sister's room, so I thought that why not using some creativity, surprise her with something nice. So let's get straight to it. Now I need something to paint. So I decided that my best shot was Rocky, my sister's horse. Say hi, Rocky. Hello. Now to what I was actually going to put on the wall. I grabbed some references and began scribbling down some ideas. Now some of these worked well, others not so well. And the one I ended up using, annoyingly, I did off camera. Doofus. But once I had this design I liked, I drew it over and over and over again, so I got really familiar with the shape, so I could go and draw it straight onto the wall without having to faff around with grids and other transferring methods I've seen online. I then went around the sketch using a fine paintbrush with some black paint, which really cements the sketch and also allows you guys to see it on camera. Using the same black, I filled in all of his markings, using a bigger brush to do the main bulk of it, and then as I got to the edges, I then switched to the smaller brush so I didn't end up going outside of the lines. Although this did happen, but I could clear it up at the end. And also, I needed about 2 or 3 coats to ensure that it was really opaque and that the white wouldn't show through. Now onto adding some depth. To do this, I needed various different shades of grey, so I poured out equal amounts of white and then put in different amounts of black, obviously with the darker one having more black and the lightest one having very little. It's also really important that you make enough of it, because if you run out of it, it's basically impossible to make the exact colour again. As my sister was very eager to get back in her room, I didn't necessarily have time to do a realistic piece, so I instead opted for a more geometric approach, using lots of different shapes in order to convey a 3D image. Now these shapes weren't exactly planned out. I was kind of just winging it. So as a result, I did make quite a few errors. However, paint does dry very opaque, so I can just paint over all these mistakes and no one will ever know that I made them, which is great. And the same with the base coat of the black. I also needed many layers. He now needs something to jump over. So using a spirit level and ruler, I measured out some poles, which all need to be the same width, distance from each other, and at the same angle. And to be honest, this was probably the hardest part of the piece. What I'm doing now is going over some of the darker shapes on the white part of his body. This is because they are a bit too dark for my liking, and by going over the top of them with white, the darkness still shows through, so I basically formulate my own greys on the wall. Now I know what you're thinking, this is lacking a lot of colour, so I decided to add some in the forms of red and blue in the poles, which I separated these colours with some white strips, which follow the curvature of the cylinder. I then put tints of each colour on the top and shades on the bottom. This helps give a really 3D appearance, making it pop off the wall. I then went around the whole piece, cleaning up all my mistakes with a black Posca marker. And that's the mural finished, and I really think that my sister likes it just as much as I do. Do you like it?
Rocky! That looks really good! That looks really good!
I think that is mission successful.
Yeah.
Let's go. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time with more creative content.